Hey guys, so I'm going to quickly go through the how to describe and evaluate the multi-store memory model. So the way I've worked it out is that there's 15 paragraphs and it's about the same, so it's give or take maybe one or two. So kind of like that's how I remember how much I need to write. So the first 4 paragraphs are basically explaining what each stage of the multi-store memory model is, and then the rest of them is the evidence and how that supports it. So the first one we've got is that sensory store. So information from the environment is received by the sensory store. This information is received by the eyes, the ears, the nose, the mouth, etc. The capacity of the sensory store is large, so information is constantly being received from the environment. Most of it does not get any attention. So the incoming information remains in the sensory store for a very limited period. If a person's attention is focused on the information, then the data is transferred to the short-term memory. If attention is not given, the information decays due to the limited duration of the sensory store. Memories for events in the present or immediate past is known as the short-term memory. Information is coded in the short-term memory, usually acoustically. So it's held in the short-term memory for a fragile state for around a few seconds or few minutes, and it will decay quickly if it's not rehearsed. This is due to the limited capacity of between 5 to 9 items. If new information enters the short-term memory, it may displace old information. Now, this isn't part of the store, but it's in between short-term and long-term memory. So, maintenance rehearsal is the verbal repetition of what is needed to be memorised in order to keep it in the short-term memory for as long as it is required. Rehearsal also transfers information into the long-term memory, and they suggest that the more something is rehearsed, the more lasting the memory. Then memory for events that have happened in the more distant past is the long-term memory. Atkin and Schifrin suggested a direct link between the rehearsal in the short-term memory and the strength of the long-term memory. So the more something is rehearsed, the better it will be remembered. The long-term memory encodes information mainly semantically, and it has an unlimited capacity and duration. Now we're going to go on to the evaluation. A major strength of the multi-store memory model is that it was the first model that had produced testable predictions, which is important in the scientific method to enable theory verification. This testability has led to lots of research evidence to support the existence of 3 separate stores and the duration and capacity of both the short-term and the long-term memory. So evidence to support the limited capacity of the short-term memory comes from Murdoch's primary and recency effect experiment. He found that when participants were asked to memorise a list of words, the words presented in the middle were recalled the least, whereas the words presented at the beginning and the end were recalled the most. Murdoch claimed that this was due to the end words displacing the words that were in the middle, meaning that was because the short-term memory was full. However, this was a lab experiment and therefore lacks ecological validity and mundane realism, as it involved participants learning a list of words in an artificial environment. This doesn't reflect real-life memory, and we're not really required to learn lists of words and then recall them in a setting like that. Therefore, the results from the study can't be generalised to how we use memory in real life, for example, remembering our college timetable. Evidence to support the unlimited duration of the long-term memory comes from Barrick, where he asked people to match names to faces from their high school yearbook. 48 years later, people were 70% accurate. This provides evidence that the duration of the long-term memory is long, presumably because the information being remembered was meaningful to the participants. Furthermore, there's evidence to support 2 separate stores from, in the case of HM, where he suffered brain damage during an operation to remove his hippocampus, in order to reduce the symptoms of his epilepsy. HM's short-term memory remained intact, but he could not form any new long-term memories, although he could remember things from the past. This supports the idea of two separate memory stores. The advantage of using case studies of brain damaged patients such as HM is to investigate memories. It provides highly detailed information and rich data which gives a true insight into how memory works. For example, the case of HM highlighted the importance of the hippocampus in memory. However, the results of the study are only valid when applied to that case. This means that the findings from case studies such as HM cannot be generalised to other individuals with memory problems. Now we've looked at the the advantages of the multi-store memory model, I'm going to focus on the disadvantages at the end. So the main criticism of the multi-store memory model is that it oversimplifies the memory process. For example, it sees the short-term memory as a single passive store, whereas the working memory model sees it as active and has 4 different components. Furthermore, research evidence has also shown that long-term memories are more complex, and there are in fact 3 different types. These are episodic, procedural and semantic memory. Another problem for the multi-store memory model is that it suggests memories are retained through verbal repetition only. There is evidence, actually, that rehearsal is more elaborate. The levels of processing model shows that it's how deeply information is processed that is more important for recall than how many times it is rehearsed. This is evidenced by Craik and Tulving, who tested whether the level of processing affects how well information is remembered, and he found that the participants recalled more words that were semantically processed compared to words that were structurally or phonetically processed. This provides evidence that semantic processing words involves elaborative rehearsal and deeper processing, which results in more accurate recall. This shows that the depth of the processing is more important in memory recall rather than the amount of the processing, which is what the multi-store model suggests. In light of this research, Atkinson and Schifrin, who first of all developed the link between it, they've updated their multi-store memory model to include elaborative rehearsal, which explains how information is transferred to the long-term memory. A final criticism is that the empirical research on the multi-store memory model is largely involved college students. Therefore, the results can't actually be generalised to other age groups, as people aged 18 to 21 may have different memories from people of other age groups. Also, it could be argued that students on average actually have a better memory, as they're required to learn and recall large amounts of information, and that tends to be part of their daily activities. That is kind of, I know it sounds a bit silly, but that's kind of it. Again, if you don't understand or you've not gone across any of the studies, please comment and I'm more than happy to give an alternative. Although learning new studies can enhance your learning, and I know we're really close to the exam, so I'm just going to apologise now that if I don't get a chance to do all of the essays, I'll try and do at least maybe 1 or 2 from each of the topics. So again, as always guys, good luck.